Brennan, let's start with Victor Wembanyama, who had a triple-double the other night, 24, 13, 4, 4. He's averaging per 36 minutes right now. He is killing it as a center now that Zach Collins has been hurt, and he's just the center on that team now. He plays every bit of the fact that he is 7'4". The Spurs are still not very good. To be clear, that team is still a ways away from being something that can match the upside of Vic. But he has his triple-double. He's had all these amazing moments. It feels like the Victor Wembanyama uptick and him like hitting another level in season kind of feels like it's staring us in the face right now.
Yeah, we ended the last show by being a little negative about him, so I want to, take the opportunity to be a little bit positive because he deserves it. Those numbers are astounding. He's really the only component I think you would say of his game that hasn't come around. I guess there's two. He's not making his threes. He's sub 30% on threes, and he's turning the ball over a ton. But the other part of the lineup change that happened is, yes, he's playing center, and Collins was healthy when he first, credit to the Spurs coaching staff. They did it before Collins got hurt, but now it's even more intense that he's never playing with Collins, who's benched with an injury. But the other part of it is that he's kind of also filling in more as a point guard now that they're playing less through Jeremy Sohan. So it's almost like we were clamoring for the Spurs to have a real center, and they had one. We were clamoring for them to have a point guard. Trey Jones has done that more, but Vic has also filled in there, and they're operating through very Tim Duncan-like kind of post playmaking of his as well. And when your floor is that high at 19, I just think it's going to go under the radar because they've been so bad, but he's living up to, I think, everything we would have hoped for. It just might not be as flashy because it hasn't come outside of, I guess, that Bucks game last week in these high-profile, nationally televised, competitive moments.
Yeah, and I think that's somewhat just a product of the fact that his team isn't very good, right? If he was on a team that was just more, I think, thought of within the day-to-day, who's going to win the title, who are the best teams, whose stock is up, who's done, they're kind of, and it's not his fault, but they're somewhat of an afterthought within the big structure of the NBA just because of the quality of the team. That is just kind of...
But that's true for most rookies, right? And he's still kind of slipped. I mean, I think obviously we can acknowledge the Spurs are just not a sexy team. But, I mean, they're going to start winning soon, and I think that will all come. But just as a player, developmentally, this guy is exactly where you would want him to be. And I threw the stat in here in our notes that Trey Jones, Devin Vassell, Jeremy Sohan, Victor Wembanyama, which is 4/5 of their current starting lineup. That fifth guy has kind of been a revolving door. Keldon Johnson has started at times. Malachi Branham has started at times. Obviously, Zach Collins, who we talked about. Right now, it's Justin Champagnie, who was great in Summer League. But those four guys, plus 18 net rating and almost 100 minutes together now that they're actually playing together more consistently, to me, that is another great indicator. And if the Spurs can just get out of their own way, I feel like Vic is laying a foundation to do something really impressive with them and win probably quicker than we think, maybe despite some of the boneheaded stuff we're seeing if they, make the right moves this offseason and keep building in the same direction.
The other thing, too, Brendan, that big picture with him, I think has come away really impressive. And some of this is, again, a Spurs thing where they've limited his minutes to some degree. He's averaging 28 a game on the year as far as minutes, but, he's not getting heavy workloads, and there's times where he's pulled out early, and Pop has been very direct about managing him. He's played in 32 of 36 games, and he, to me, when you see him play, I don't feel like we have seen him, and it's not even the halfway point yet, but we haven't seen him feel the brunt of being in the NBA yet in a way you might have thought for him transitioning from Europe, where he played way fewer games, over to the NBA, which is a more physical league, which is demanding a lot in terms of travel and playing on a night-to-night basis. There's something to me really impressive in whatever he is doing, whatever the Spurs are doing, whatever the combination of those two things are, where he just looks physically there. It's not a question of, hey, is this guy physically going to be able to hang in the NBA, or what is that transition going to look like? There's obviously still room to grow in that, and at some point he's going to, strength-wise, probably implement himself in games the way he does with his height already and his skill already. But he hasn't been overwhelmed by what the league is demanding of him physically, and I think that is part of this, that we're 30 games into the year, he's played heavy minutes, he's traveled a lot, all that stuff, and he is here, he's healthy. It's so impressive to me that he's held up physically in that regard.
Yeah, and you wouldn't have thought that at all. I think that was even bigger than getting into the point guard stuff or lineups or any of that, what you would have been most worried about. So there's a huge reason for optimism there. And I know we want to get to the Clippers and beyond here, so I won't open this Pandora's box too wide, but I'm interested this season with Vic and a couple other guys that aren't rookies and have different situations but fall into the same category, including Zion and Kawhi. It feels like it is a big year for playing basketball is the best thing to do to maintain basketball shape.
Well, which is what all the old heads have been saying for years, that they're just like, hey, can we just like play basketball? You'll actually be fine. And oftentimes I think part of their problem, Brendan, in making those arguments was that they made them as if like they were arguing that like 90s basketball was better, or that it's just like this generation is soft. But there is just an argument. It's like, hey, if you play basketball and you take care of yourself on top of that, you're probably going to be healthy enough to play a lot of basketball.
Yeah, and Vic had the ankle thing that you were alluding to, where he was in and out of games, missed a couple games, was on a minutes restriction, but he played till June last year with the French league team that he was on. And a lot of these guys, it's like, yeah, maybe managing minutes, maybe the less practice time are adjustments that needed to be made in the modern era, because what players are asked to do physically is way more extensive than what they had to do in the 90s, when it was like, hey, stand around while, MJ ISOs for a bit and take a shot if you get the ball and then go guard your ass off. That's not really the job anymore. So I do think there's more physical push and wear and tear, but for this rookie to be able to come in with a body we've never seen and kind of just handle it, to your point, is super impressive. Did you love my segue to Kawhi Leonard there, Chris? That was just excellent podcasting.
I'm sorry I kind of ignored it. And I'm honestly, just the last thing I just want to say about Vic. Mm-hmm. They're sneakily a top like 5 to 7 team for me at the trade deadline because of him. Mm-hmm. I just want to see like how much do they sell off? Do they like go buy ahead of time for something they need? We'll talk about that closer to the deadline. They're worth talking about it when we do a deadline preview of some kind closer to. But
their name has come up with DeJounte Murray and Trae Young in the past week. Very, very heavy slot, but it's out there from Matt Moore. The DeJounte thing is out there from multiple places. Matt Moore had a Trae thing that they basically want a point guard. So that's a good thing to hear. I don't know if it'll happen in February, but yeah, they obviously have identified, hey, this guy is ready to go. Let's do it. I wish they would have realized that last year. Maybe June, July of 2023, but better late than never.